streaming on the VTRN Sports app.
Here we grow again at the Sheeler Motor Mile. It's here, the all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. More brands, more selection, and the same exceptional service you expect from a trusted community partner. Whether you're shopping Chevrolet or Buick, you'll find quality, value, and a team that puts you first. From rugged trucks and SUVs to stylish cars and family-friendly vehicles, the Motor Mile has something for everyone. With straightforward pricing and top dollar for your trade, there's no better place to buy. Bring us your trade, newer, older, paid off or not, and see why your car is worth more on the Motor Mile. Plus, with more inventory arriving daily, now is the time to shop the Motor Mile. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Experience the Motor Mile at 3 convenient locations: Christiansburg, Radford, and Pulaski. For over 50 years, we've got Southwest Virginia covered. The all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. Certified friendly staff. No games, no gimmicks. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at MotorMileChevroletBuick.com.
Spring's here, finally. So visit Leesville Landscape Supplies for a slam dunk on your next home or business landscape project. Get the region's best mulch, plus decorative stone, propane, block, and hardscape materials, routine lawn care. Leesville Landscape Supplies has grass seed, fertilizer, straw, and topsoil, even hardwood mulch, dyed mulch, pine mulch, gravel, and sand. Start your spring project at Leesville Landscape Supplies at the corner of Water Lake and Leesville Road in Lynchburg, and pick there or have it delivered. Search 24/7 at LeesvilleLandscapes.com. When the thrill of playing ball turns into the agony of a broken windshield or car window, contact Apple Auto Glass. Your local auto glass repair shop on Allegheny Avenue in Lynchburg. Apple Auto Glass provide a professional assessment with the honesty from your neighbors, so you can get back to sharing the great moments this season.
Hi, I'm Susan Lane, Ed's mom. March Madness brings lots of picks, but I have only one, Bartlett Tree Experts. I rely on Bartlett to professionally assess my oaks and boxwoods and to prepare a maintenance plan within my budget. Call Corey, a certified arborist, at Bartlett Tree Experts or go to bartlett.com.
Heart disease and stroke can affect women at any age. In fact, almost half of women over the age of 20 are living with some form of cardiovascular disease.
I never thought it could happen to me. Women experience unique life stages such as pregnancy or menopause that can increase their risk of developing cardiovascular disease over the course of their lifetime.
But here's the good news. Women have the best resource. We have each other.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
I don't know if we're going to keep doing this or not, but we might as well just try it here in the fast lane, which is not echoing. We're not going to keep doing that again. That was just a little technical snafu on my end that you heard. But the Fast Five at 5-ish on a Monday to recap as much as we possibly can before our guests get into it in covering the Commonwealth. And then we can use the rest of the week to get more adventurous when it comes to deeper dives on certain topics. Coaches are on fire when it comes to their opinions on how to parent in this day and age. I've got 2 7-year-olds. Get ready for that later this week in the Fast Lane. That might be the entire shorter edition of the Fast Lane tomorrow leading in to Virginia Tech baseball. But that is for a different date and time. For today, it is in the order of, I don't know, reverse of what people are talking about.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kinda ish. Let's start with number 5.
So it's not hard to figure out that I had the VTRN Sports app up yesterday. I was at NASCAR at Martinsville Trey Lyle was there as well as Michael Massey. Massey's going to join us 5:50 or so today covering the Commonwealth. And I'll be joining him on the Front Stretch Happy Hour podcast tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. or Front Stretch Podcast Network if you're like me and listen back to those things after the fact on the audio version. But I got done with our trostlaw.com fast take at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And it immediately hit me. I got time to knock one of these out because Chase Elliott gets the win at Martinsville. And then I can bolt from the speedway because my car was not too far from the turn 4 spot where I did the trostlaw.com fast take. And could beat the celebrating crowd to the car, get out in time. I needed to take that chance because we've had car hell. My kids are great kids, but the up-down button on the window has created an electrical issue on my car. I've got to get that serviced on Wednesday. The back window on the driver's side doesn't really roll up all the way. So I swapped cars with my mom, and then in the middle of doing that, found out my mom's car was low on oil. By the grace of God, he thankfully got me to Martinsville Speedway in time. I put a little bit in, then had to go up to an auto parts stop, bought some more quarts of oil. We were good to go, but I didn't want to take any chances. So why do I even bring all that up? I had to listen to this epic moment, and I'm so glad to have had the VTRN Sports app. Your home for the best play-by-play, including what may be one of the most epic shots in NCAA tournament history since
72-70, Duke by 2. Chickee the inbound now, full court pressure from Sar, gets it into Cam Boozer. Boozer back to Sar, now ahead to Boozer, and UConn got a steal. Caravan for Mullins, long three, he got it! Oh, he got it! He hit it! He hit the long three-pointer from the logo with 0.3 of a second left to go. I don't believe it. UConn has taken the lead with 0.3 of a second left to go in a mad scramble off a steal. Braylon Mullins nails the three-pointer. And the UConn Huskies are 0.3 of a second away from a trip back to the Final Four. Unbelievable.
No doubt it was unbelievable, as you heard on the VTRN Sports app. Your home for the best play-by-play. And that was the call of friend of the morning warm-up, 7 to 8 a.m., Scott Graham, who was on with Trey and Ty a little over a week ago. That was an epic shot. TJ, first of all, I apologize for being so rude. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm good at
wellness check for you. You know, are you making it? You look a little beat down today. Is that because of that shot, as most people would presume?
You know, you could say that, yes. The shot definitely didn't help. It's just been busy getting ready for the wedding, trying to keep sales going for this radio station, which, by the way, is easy to do. Just email me, tjwilk1796@gmail.com. But, oh, no, that game, that UConn game, oh, man, I was at work watching the game and watched that shot go in, and my heart just sank.
So it's fascinating because, like, is that the most iconic shot since Christian Laettner? Is it better than Christian Laettner?
Man, that's hard to say, Ed, because Chris Jenkins a few years back against Carolina after Marcus Page made that three, and then he made one right back to win the Natty. That's hard to say, but I definitely think it's going to be top 3 iconic.
You know, it is up there. You know, if Gordon Hayward's had have gone in against Duke, that might have been the biggest of all time because it would have been a half court by the Cinderella to beat the big boy. This was back when Cinderellas could make it to the NCAA tournament. More on that becoming even harder a little bit later in the Fast Five at 5-ish. Not shocking to anybody, of course. But you know, there were so many elements to this game. 19-point Duke lead. It stings. I am not of the camp that John Shire can never break through. People said that about Jay Wright for an eternity. And then he finally broke through. And it was over a decade into his tenure at Villanova. And then he won 2 championships in the 3-year span, with the second of those being just an absolute blasting of the field. The year Virginia was the number 1 overall seed, lost to UMBC, but Villanova was the better team entering the tournament, and they proved it by how they went on to win the championship. That's where Duke, I think, will eventually get. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't sting. By the way, speaking of Virginia, the following year, there's a moment that kind of triggered in my mind, and I wasn't the only one. Jay Billis brought up a very fascinating point when he joined the Rich Eisen show earlier today. You can hear that show noon to 3 right here on the VTRN Sports app and 93.3 FM.
Every bit as important as that shot that Mullins hit was the pass that Alex Caravan made. And I'm not sure that a younger player could have or would have done that. Maybe. But for him to have the presence of mind to pitch that ball back to Mullins, who was the one that corralled the deflected pass from Caden Boozer and then hit Caravan with it. I think most players would have, in a short clock, would have taken that shot. Caravan would have taken the shot. But he had the presence of mind to pitch it back to Mullins to give him a better opportunity to make what clearly, even though Mullins is an amazing shooter, made a lot of those kind of shots in high school, that gave them the best opportunity, and Caravan understood that. That was an extraordinary play.
So Jay Billis brought up a great point on the Rich Eisen show. You can hear that show weekdays noon to 3 on 93.3 FM here in the VTRN Sports app. But when he's describing the presence of mind, the poise under duress for Alex Caravan, who was a senior, it brought up a memory on two fronts. One, you've seen it on social media, and I think it's a reasonable comparison. The turnover by Caden Boozer on the pass is going to go down in infamy, probably as the most infamous play that caused a defeat since Kihei Clark's pass against Furman that allowed the Paladins, the 13 seed, to upset Virginia back in 2023. But if we're going to go down that road, I think it's only reasonable to also remember that the pass itself was such a heads-up play that Kihei Clark also gets rewarded by being mentioned as somebody that this may be the most heads-up pass play from one to another in an under-duress situation. Caravan passing it to Braylon Mullins of UConn to get the 73-72 victory yesterday since this moment.
Short. Back tap. Diakite. A race for it. Into the hands of Clark. Got a chance to win it here. Up the front. Here's Diakite for the win. For the tie. Diakite squares it at 70.
That was Brian Anderson on Turner who had the call, which, I mean, I don't know how many people even remember that call because they were all listening on your home for all the great play-by-play, the VTRN Sports app, which, yes, we carried that game as well back when the Hoos cut down the nets and had that epic run in 2019. But tip of the cap for plays under duress. People have done the meme of, the Caden Boozer turnover that led to this being similar to the Kihei Clark turnover. I think it's fair, but I think you also have to mention that if you're going to go that route, you got to go the pass under duress to tip the cap to Kihei Clark as well, because what he did in 2019 was an epic pass itself. Meanwhile, speaking of NASCAR at Martinsville, in
number 4,
NASCAR at Martinsville yesterday, it was as good as you could expect for a Martinsville race. On the one hand, if it was 500 laps, I don't know if we could have taken a lot of it because it was kind of Denny Hamlin and everybody else. But on the flip side, maybe we would have gotten a different answer. The last 73%, the first 73% of the race was kind of meh, but the last chunk of it was actually really entertaining. And there's so much that goes into criticizing Alan Gustafson. It's like when Dale Earnhardt Jr. was a driver. It was never Jr.'s fault. It was always the crew chief. Didn't matter if you cycled through him. It was always the crew chief. Same thing with Chase Elliott, most popular driver in NASCAR, which I'm glad he is because everybody celebrating his win allowed me to sneak out and get out of the Martinsville Speedway traffic ahead of schedule. So thanks be to God for that one. But Alan Gustafson had this to say about the strategy where they were about 9th, 10th, and they decided to go pit for tires early. Had the fresh tires, got the better position, and came out ahead of Denny Hamlin. Ultimately, they held him off, but even if they didn't, that this would have been probably a second-place run, and it would have been a boost in track position, the old no risk it, no biscuit theory, which was coined by Virginia Tech alum, Tampa Bay Buccaneers Super Bowl winning coach, thanks to Tom Brady, Bruce Arians, came in handy here.
We were probably right around the position that it makes sense to take that risk. Maybe a little further than us. If I was a little further up, it would have been worth doing. But at the same time, you can't sit on your hands and run 10. So you got to do something, right? So I think that was the best shot.
Can't sit on your hands and run 10. Look, I like it. And a lot of it goes back to what Chad Canals, the crew chief for Chase Elliott, the vice president of competition, for Hendrick Motorsports. Chase Elliott runs for them. What Canals said last week to us here in the Fast Lane, the audiograms are up thanks to TJ's work. Fastlane, Edlane, and TJ _Wilkerson 8 on your socials, and Fastlane, Edlane, where you listen to podcasts, because.
And guess what? We keep receipts.
Right there. But Chad Knaus had this to say about not being too far off, which is where you're in a spot where you can roll the dice and go for a win.
We haven't had the victories yet this year that we're looking for, but Daytona, we had an opportunity. Atlanta, we had an opportunity. We've had an opportunity at Las Vegas, so we're not too far off. Say that we're pleased? No, of course not. But we're definitely pointed in the right direction, and we're excited about what the spring months have to come. There's a lot of really good racetracks for us that are on the horizon, so it's looking good.
Yeah, I mean, look, they knew they had a pep in their step going into Martinsville. Hendrick did. They had 3 of their cars in the top 10 for most of the day, and the Elliott strategy was the brilliant one. But give them credit. I mean, if you're there long enough, you'll eventually break through. It kind of goes to our theme with John Shire at Duke. If you keep getting yourself in position to win over a long period of time, and you've got plenty of schedule runway ahead of you. Kelvin Sampson, Houston's different. I know we're using different sports. Denny Hamlin in NASCAR is different. The clock is ticking on the longevity of their career. But these drivers at Hendrick, the operation itself for this year, or John Shire at Duke, I mean, you're so young and successful, eventually it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when or if you continue to put yourself in the right position by having a good set of pieces around you, talent, team, circumstances, and everything else.
Ed, you mentioned Hamlin and Hendrick Sports. Obviously, Hamlin's not a part of that, but do you think that applies to Ty Gibbs in a way, who was in second place for majority of the race, thanks to Denny making way for him? And
I thought Ty Gibbs did not have the car to beat. And I think because he was closer to Hamlin, you're less likely to go on that strategy. Gustafson kind of brought it up that the strategy call was something you could do in about 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. Anything closer than that, it probably doesn't have the same effect, because then everybody else is just going to pit around you and they're going to be close. And anything further back, you're not going to be able to really make up the gap and ward off enough cars. It's kind of a finite window, and that goes to the Hendrick Motorsports resources financially to do the analytics, but it also goes to the driver and the team himself. And look, tip of the cap to Chase Elliott, because number 3, Chase Elliott mentioned and gave credit where it was due, that this win was much more about the team than it was the driver. Please at me, by the way, Chase Elliott fans, Fastlane, Edlane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, for making that comment. Maybe I'll get the middle fingers like the Dale Jr. comments got me back in the day.
They just did a really good job of, putting us in an extremely offensive position from that strategy call, right? And I think Alan saw that and saw an opportunity. We had gotten our car pretty good, and I didn't hate it. Like, there was nothing about our balance that I hated. I just wanted to be able to control my runs a little better and manage them the way I wanted to. And
he managed the runs the way he wanted to. Chase Elliott did, but a lot of it goes back to the strategy of Alan Gustafson and the faith that Elliott has, for as temperamental as he can be at times, and especially his fans. Kudos to Chase Elliott for having the back of his crew chief. Some of that's also the Hendrick culture there, sure, but having his back.
Saw an opportunity to stop that last stage, and I think we had ourselves in a position where it was going to work out really good for us either way. Like, I think that we had forced those guys into stopping really early. They were going to have to run 100 and some odd laps, on a set. And I think we're in really good shape. So it's a great call. I'm glad he picked up on that and saw it. Obviously, I don't think anybody else did. It goes to show that he's pretty good at what he does, which I try to tell you all that all the time, but he does a pretty good job. And I'm happy to work with him. Appreciate his effort and hanging in there, and to our whole team for doing that too. So I appreciate that out of all of them.
He's pretty good at what he does. I try to tell you that all the time. Look, that speaks to the fact that Chase Elliott, to his credit, I think this is a good positive character trait. Probably learned it from his dad, Awesome Bill from Dawsonville, but not throwing people under the bus, even so much as giving passive aggressive or no comments. Look at the NBA as the example where players get coaches fired all the time, and it's the non-endorsements, the hemming and hawing, hanging them out to dry, and eventually they dry out, and it's just a vicious turn cycle of coaching in the NBA. But for Chase Elliott, that's a level of maturity as well. Tip your cap to him. Does it make him the favorite this year? I don't think so. I need to see more out of him. Do I think he and Larson and Byron could all get to that point? I'm not betting against Hendrick. But there's enough that was good that you can sit there and go, okay, this is the step in the right direction that they wanted. Meanwhile, good step in the right direction in
Number 2.
Virginia women's basketball. Listen to the game this past Saturday. We sandwiched it in between the 2 Elite 8 games on Saturday. They were in this game, actually led by 1 at halftime. 13-1 run to start the second half, kind of cooked Virginia. They would come back to within 6 to 7 at certain points. Haha, 6-7 joke. I know I'm getting outdated, but whatever. Have to do it anyway. Sorry, kids who think that's no longer cool. But Virginia got it back to about 6-7 a couple of times, but then TCU would continue to stretch it back to 13. It was kind of played around the 10-point margin, so I think it was a fair margin in terms of indicative of how the second half played. But for Virginia, they weren't blown out and outclassed. This season was a step in the right direction, just getting to the tournament and winning their playing game against Arizona State, much less the fact that Virginia backed that up by getting victories against Georgia and at Iowa to get to the Sweet 16, and they were competitive. Now, do I think they would be competitive tonight in Game 2 of our doubleheader of women's basketball, which starts at 6:30 against South Carolina? No, they're not in that class. But this is the right step for Virginia. If they had gotten there, it would have been even better. They probably would have gotten blown out. But these are steps where you can say, okay, they've invested financially in the program. Alexis Ohanian, reportedly, according to The Athletic, has put up about $750,000 to $1 million, which in women's basketball is a lot. But this has been a step for them. Meanwhile, speaking of,
Number 1.
3 transfers of note over the weekend. 2 of them are not a surprise. One is, kind of, Avery Mills from Liberty University, first team All-Conference USA, and has ties to the area in that school, having played her high school basketball, dominating it for the LCA Lady Bulldogs. Look, I wouldn't be shocked if Virginia's the type of place that's on the radar for someone like that. Just given how well she's performed, the monetary disparity between Liberty and those other programs, it's not like it's life-changing money, but it's substantial. I mean, if you can be getting in the mid to upper 6 figures, and a lot of the college basketball that's offering that are only the higher level programs, this is a move. Again, I get it financially. The other 2 are not surprising. Neoclis of Dallas at Virginia Tech. It was only a matter of time for that, TJ. When Mike Young's not playing him in the ACC tournament or other games down the stretch, you knew this time was going to come. And then Brett Decker Jr. for Liberty. Look, I would have been shocked if he didn't enter the portal. Like, am I off base in saying that Neoclis of Dallas from Virginia Tech and Brett Decker Jr. of Liberty both entering the portal? Decker today, as his agency announced, as you know what that means.
Dollar bills, y'all.
And then Neoclis of Dallas entering it as well. If they had a return, that would have been the surprise for me.
No, I think we all knew. We talked about Brett Decker leaving for weeks now, but we all knew once he signed with that agency and then listed himself as the point guard, he was gone.
I mean, duh, you're right on. Like, just, you knew it, I knew it, anybody in their sane mind. Don't fault the guy for it at all.
No.
I get it.
No.
But it is what it is. When we return to the Fast Lane, Jerry Ratcliffe quickly on Virginia Cavalier Athletics, and then we'll touch on the JMU Dukes with Shane Metlin. We're going to flip the order a lot today, so bear with us here in the Fast Lane on the VTRN Sports app.
When the thrill of playing ball turns into the agony of a broken windshield or car window, contact Apple Auto Glass. Your local auto glass repair shop on Allegheny Avenue in Lynchburg, Apple Auto Glass provide a professional assessment with the honesty from your neighbors, so you can get back to sharing the great moments this season.
Whether you're facing a tough season or looking for support to overcome life's obstacles, Central Virginia Counseling is here for you. Central Virginia Counseling is accepting new clients at both Lynchburg locations on Wigington Road and Timberlake Road. And telehealth is available anywhere in Virginia. Serving children, teens, and adults, our counselors are equipped with diverse skill sets to help you on your journey. For more information, visit us at centralvirginiacounseling.com.
When you walk into Haley's, you see the size and selection of a big box store. Over 19,000 square feet of appliances and mattresses. Leading appliances like KitchenAid, Whirlpool, Maytag, Genair, Speed Queen, GE, and Monogram. And mattresses like Sealy, Serta, and Tempur-Pedic. So what's the difference? A family, locally owned business. And a staff committed to servicing you over the entire life of the product. That means before, during, and well after your purchase. Visit Haley's today, just off Ward Road in Lynchburg. Haley's, quality that counts.
Do you love the 80s? Whether you were Team Madonna or Prince, this night is for you. Hi, I'm Kelly Diaz with Casa of Central Virginia, inviting you to Retro Rewind, our totally rad 80s party for a great cause. Join us April 11th from 6 to 10 at the Boonesboro Rurton Club for an awesome 80s DJ, arcade games, dance floor, and more. Best of all, every ticket helps Casa volunteers advocate for children who have experienced abuse or neglect in our community. Grab your friends, moonwalk over to cvcasa.org, and get your tickets before they're gone.
Hill City, your Howlers are ready for opening day, Tuesday, April 7th at 6:30 p.m., presented by Charbroil, as the Howlers take on the Fredericksburg Nationals. All teachers get in free courtesy of Blue Eagle Credit Union, and the best fireworks show in the region will follow the game. So grab your tickets and be a part of history at hchowlers.com and be ready to howl out loud.
Monday on the morning warm-up, reaction to the weekend, including that improbable comeback, an improbable shot that you heard on VTRN Sports. UConn beating Duke to get to the Final Four, and the rest of the Final Four being set, plus NASCAR at Martinsville discussion as well. Tuesday, replacement refs really coming to the NFL. We discuss that and much more with Blake Lewis, NFL and Commanders Insider. So join us on the morning warm-up, weekday morning, 7 to 8 a.m. on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, 1320 a.m., and on the VTRN Sports app.
Hey, gang, this is Bud Foster, former defensive coordinator for the Virginia Tech Hokies. Catch the Fast Lane weekdays, 5 to 6 p.m. on VTRN Sports 93.3 FM.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
It's amazing nowadays where when you look at college basketball news nuggets and everything else, a lot of it is contingent on what agents are telling players and then what that leads to, which leads us into
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth, a look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with the Virginia Cavaliers.
JerryRatcliffe.com founder, Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe. Hootie, Testa Ritter says he's open to returning. Sam Lewis says he'll be back for Virginia. You have that and other things covered in your articles at JerryRatcliffe.com. You have an article that kind of encompasses all of that. Testa Ritter saying he's open to returning to Virginia. Does that mean he's waiting to see how the financials play out?
I imagine that's a part of it, Ed. I really think that under his circumstances, most people would agree that it would behoove him to return for another year instead of taking a chance on the NBA and possibly being signed to a two-way contract where the money honestly is not as good as NIL here. I think he enjoyed the experience this year, and I think he would flourish with another year here. He could end up being a candidate for Player of the Year next year.
So you mentioned that too, as far as candidates for Player of the Year. How much of this decision for a guy like Testa Ritter is also the fact that, there's proof of concept that he can flourish at Virginia, whereas you go somewhere else, he's talented, but the role may be unknown.
Yeah, and it really is because, second round NBA money is not guaranteed. Most of those guys end up in a two-way deal with playing in the G League the majority of the time. The money is not that great. The travel's not that great. And, you have no control really over who picks you or if you fit in well, all that sort of thing. And, at least here there's a comfort. He will know the majority of his teammates, I think, because it looks like several guys will return. He knows the coaching staff. He knows what's expected. I think he enjoyed the camaraderie and the competition in the ACC and NCAA basketball. I think it was gave him kind of a new look on basketball.
Meanwhile, departing from Virginia, assistant Griff Aldrich, he was at Longwood as well. He's now going to be the new head coach at Pepperdine. How much, if at all, does this impact Virginia?
I don't think that much, and not to diminish his contribution here. But I think certainly he played a role and did a good job of helping collect talent, and is a really good coach on the side. But I think he was intrigued by an opportunity to be a head coach, and he's been known as a guy who likes to build programs, and certainly he's got a challenge out at Pepperdine. They're getting ready to move into a brand new facility, state-of-the-art facility that I saw online today is incredible. And they're in a conference that, you can compete in now if you get the right amount of NIL support, because Gonzaga has left the conference. St. Mary's head coach, who's been there forever, is somewhere else now. So the top two giants in that league are one's gone and one is starting kind of over again with a new coach. So I think he'll do well out there. It may take some time to build the program, but he's got everything going in the right direction. But he'll be missed here. But I think most associate head coaches play a good role, but it's not like that they're not replaceable.
I think you'd be nuts to have thought that the Virginia Lady Hoos would have beaten South Carolina if they made it to the Elite Eight. That game will be game 2 of our women's basketball doubleheader tonight on the VTRN Sports app and 93.3 FM. Coverage starts at 6:30 p.m. But they made it to the Sweet 16. They led at halftime against TCU, kind of undone by that 13-1 run to start the second half. Overall, though, is this as big of a step forward as you could have reasonably expected?
Probably bigger, because they hadn't been to the Sweet 16 in nearly quarter of a century, I think, and they shocked the women's college basketball world, making it that far, winning those 2 upsets in overtime, and Kamora Johnson, I guess, had her national coming out party. I think she's still the leading scorer in the tournament at this point. So. I think this was a giant step, and now that they also have NIL support, I think the women are probably here to stay for a while.
Indeed. Meanwhile, someone who's not here to stay because he's got other things he's doing today and was generous enough to be a little late to those, it's Jerry Ratcliffe. He has been kind enough to stop by the Fast Lane, but you can still get his insight 24/7. It's worth signing up at jerryratcliffe.com. Hootie, thank you for your time today in the Fast Lane. We'll let you go quickly because we know you got a busy afternoon.
Thanks, Ed. I appreciate it. See you next week.
Now to the JMU Dukes.
Shane_DNR Sports and DNRonline.com. Those are the places where you can keep up with Shane Metlin of DNRonline.com, who is with us here in the Fast Lane. Shane, we'll start small. Football, small gesture. Bob Chesney returned to the JMU Pro Day late last week. How surprised were you to see that he was back, even though it was a cross-country trip from UCLA?
A little bit surprised, just because it was that, and I wasn't there that day, so I kind of just saw that all on social media and everything, hear about it from people. But a little bit surprised, just because, like you said, it's a cross country trip. But I do think he's the kind of guy who we saw that with the former players from Holy Cross too when he was at JMU. He definitely keeps up with those guys. He continues to help them in their careers, and he likes to see his guys get to the NFL, get to play pro ball somewhere. And, so I think that's a big deal for him. So I'm not shocked that he was there if he was able to make it, but it's really hard to fit those things into your schedule when you're a college football coach. So kudos to him.
Yes, it is. It's hard to do that as players are transitioning to the next journeys. Meanwhile, a little bit of a nugget as we've got 2 players for the JMU Dukes who have announced their transitions. One is just transitioning back to the Dukes with Paul Jones staying. The other is departing. Eddie Ricks, forever a Duke, forever like 5 teams for him, is what we laugh at when players transfer that often. You surprised at either of those?
I wasn't sure what to think about Eddie Ricks this offseason, honestly. both of the last 2 years, there's been a little bit of venting from him and his family, particularly like when the season was over. And then last year he wound up coming back, and that was his third season with Preston Spradlin. So, I did wonder if it was just some venting and that, he would probably end up being back. But no, this time he's entering the transfer portal and will play for a different head coach for the first time in his career as he moves for his senior season. But that one a little bit surprising because I felt like, they'd been through so much and he probably had a chance to take on a big role next year. But at the same time, I talked to Preston Spradlin today and he said nothing surprising to him anymore. So you kind of got to take that mentality too.
So your mentality was great on the latest Purple and Bold podcast for DNR Media with Katie Harper about certain players that you almost write off and understand, hey, they're probably gone. I think you put Justin McBride in that category as well. How much do you believe Preston Spradlin and the Dukes have a realistic assessment of who's returning and not so they can prepare to fill those voids?
I think they probably know for the most part at this point. They've had some meetings with everybody. And basically what I was told today talking to Preston was that, he's not going to spoil anybody's announcements, whether it be that they're leaving or that they're staying. And we'll probably hear some of those kinds of announcements on both ways here in the coming days and weeks. But, he didn't want to kind of give away that because it's a big deal with some people to make those announcements on social media. But I think the staff does know basically who is coming back, and they're starting to look to try to fill the holes that they have.
Meanwhile, we wrap it up with DNRonline.com's Shane Metlin, who's with us here in the Fast Lane. Great article last week. It's another one of those into the weeds as it relates to the future and looking ahead towards 2030. You've had a chance not only to digest it, we won't spoil the whole article that's worth reading at DNRonline.com. How confident are you in the vision that they outlined last week?
I'm pretty confident. This is a aggressive administration. Both the president and the AD, Jim Schmidt's president and Matt Roan at AD are relatively new on the job. Roan's been around for, about 2 years now, but Schmidt's less than a year in. But they both want to see some big things. And I think one thing, talking about it from a sports perspective, one thing that really jumped out is, JMU has kind of a central campus area. If you've been to JMU's campus, but you're not a JMU alum, it's the area with the brick buildings. And that's kind of near the football stadium. And what they want to do with that is increase housing, increase some things around there. And part of it's going to be apartment buildings and mixed use development that's going to be adjacent to the football stadium. It's kind of going to be part of a football expansion, and it'll be part of a revenue generating operation for the football program. So that's the interesting thing athletically with the university's master plan.
Shane, thank you for that little nugget. We don't want to spoil the whole article at DNRonline.com, but it's reassuring for Duke fans. The confidence you have, we have the utmost in you. We give you a vote of confidence today in the Fast Lane, and it does not mean we are yay close to giving you the axe.
All right, appreciate it.
Shane Metlin with us here in the Fast Lane. Now to the Hill City Howlers. Still got to get the voice guy on that and a couple of other things. Might even need to get him to voice some stuff because TJ Wilkerson is filling in on Thursday this week and future dates as well, and he needs his own little rejoin and intro for when he does. So I've been a little delayed. I might have to delegate that to TJ at some point to put one together for his filling in on the show. But we have to go to the Hill City Howlers right now. Somebody who's familiar with TJ Wilkerson's work is Jason Prill. He's the play-by-play broadcaster for the Hill City Howlers. Jason, first of all, was FanFest Saturday as successful as you envisioned?
Yeah, it was great. We had a lot of fans come out playing some wiffle ball in the field. We had a mariachi band. The yard sales seem to be doing pretty well. So we're pleased. We're excited about this season. Fans are as well. And there's a lot of things coming to the ballpark this year that we just can't wait. So if you weren't at FanFest, there's still plenty of time to come out to the ballpark. We got 66 games coming up that we want everybody there for. So we're excited and really pumped to be having fans back in the ballpark.
So you brought that point up. One of the other things was the yard sale with a lot of merchandise that fans have been able to gather, including from the prior named Lynchburg Hillcats, as well as getting acclimated to some of the Hill City Howlers offerings. What was the vibe around that like?
Yeah, Ed, it was great. Everything was positive. Fans were excited. I mean, seeing the old merchandise and then also seeing the new branding. There's just a lot of excitement and getting people hyped and getting people ready. It's just it's an exciting time to be a fan of the Hill City Howlers and ushering one era in, leaving a great era as well, and just all the memories. It was a good time to say goodbye to those 30-some years and with some buying the merchandise and just getting a last look at some of the Lynchburg Hillcats memorabilia. But a lot of the focus and a lot of the excitement was all going toward this new generation and what's to come, because we have just so much to offer over the next few months. And we're excited about this new brand, and the fans definitely were as well.
Speaking of the new brand, we know the Hill City Howlers is the primary brand, but there are different logos and names that are going to be popping up at different points of the year, including the Poison Apples. The answer for many fans, or the question for many fans, is why. Part of the answer, correct, is there's a tie-in, including to Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, the story goes that back in the early American colonies, Americans viewed tomatoes as poisonous. Everyone was kind of afraid to eat them, even though we grew them. People were afraid to bite into them. And so the story goes that Thomas Jefferson, after he came back from one of his overseas adventures in France, had fallen in love with the taste of the tomato. And so he actually served it at a very high leverage, fancy dinner for distinguished guests. And they were all almost appalled until he took a bite of it to prove that it wasn't poisonous. And it happened, the story goes that it happened over at the Poplar Forest, Thomas Jefferson summer home location. So there's actually a direct tie-in to Lynchburg that this is where tomatoes were viewed as no longer being poisonous, but being edible fruits in America.
So you bring up that great point. Where do they fit, and where does all of this fit in with the fact that there are now 5 different mascots that people are going to get to experience? Are they going to all be out at every single game, or will different mascots be showcased on different evenings?
Yeah, different mascots are going to be showcased on different evenings, especially when we're talking about some of our more alternative brands. The Luchadors will be featured more on Thursday nights for our Taps and Tacos night. Every single Thursday night, discounted Taps and Tacos. And then the Poison Apples are going to be specialty jerseys and a specialty alternate branding every single, a couple times throughout the season, similar to what Salem does with some of their alternate brands, Fredericksburg does with their alternates. Every team in minor league baseball has those alternate brands. So those will be brought out on occasion for special team nights. And then the 5 Howler mascots, you guys are going to have to wait and see how we use them. I'm not going to give away too many of the state secrets, but we have some fun ideas. You're going to see all of them at various points in time, and they're going to be all throughout the ballpark.
Yes, they are, and that'll make it even more cool to see the reaction for people. We get the reaction regularly with Jason Prill. He's the Howlers play-by-play broadcaster. Jason, great to be speaking with you. Thank you for your time in the fast lane, and I'll give myself a pat on the back and hopefully not need Tommy John surgery for getting the full name correct the entire time we spoke today.
Hey, it was a great job. It's not going to be easy to remember the Hill City Howlers, but definitely excited to be ushering in this new era. So thank you for your time.
Indeed. Jason Pro with us in the fast lane. When we return, Tech, NASCAR, Commanders, all of that. Part 2 of covering the Commonwealth next on the VTRN Sports app and VTRN Sports on Facebook Live and YouTube.
Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your trusted dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Your search ends at the Motor Mile. Choose from over 900 quality pre-owned vehicles, plus a massive selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and now Buick. Plus, the used car superstore. 12 new car brands, 900 used vehicles. One amazing buying experience. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got more than any other dealer in the area. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. Here's the difference. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile with a certified friendly staff and no games, no gimmicks. The Sheeler Motor Mile, now in Christiansburg, Radford, and Pulaski. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Spring's here, finally. So visit Leesville Landscape Supplies for a slam dunk on your next home or business landscape project. Get the region's best mulch, plus decorative stone, propane, block, and hardscape materials, routine lawn care. Leesville Landscape Supplies has grass seed, fertilizer, straw, and topsoil, even hardwood mulch, dyed mulch, pine mulch, gravel, and sand. Start your spring project at Leesville Landscape Supplies at the corner of Water Lake and Leesville Road in Lynchburg. And pick there or have it delivered. Search 24/7 at LeesvilleLandscapes.com.
Hi, I'm Susan Lane, Ed's mom. March Madness brings lots of picks, but I have only one, Bartlett Tree Experts. I rely on Bartlett to professionally assess my oaks and boxwoods and to prepare a maintenance plan within my budget. Call Corey, a certified arborist, at Bartlett Tree Experts or go to bartlett.com.
Lunchtime just got an upgrade. Stop by Macadoo for our $8.95 weekday special and grab a legendary sandwich at an unbeatable price. Choose from your favorite classics, the Coney Island, Betty Bop, Ragtime, or Stogie. Classic sandwiches packed with savory meats and flavors in between fresh bread. Make it a meal by pairing your sandwich with a sidekick, a warm cup of soup, or crispy chips. Great food, cozy vibes, and the best deal in town.
It's time to share break food and fun. Just to be there, the only one. Just to be there at Marketers.
We'll see you at the Do's.
Spring means green lawns, open windows, and afternoons spent outdoors. At Brownstone Properties, you'll find homes with private yards, with locations near scenic walking trails, or beautiful local parks, perfect for family picnics or peaceful strolls. This season, find your place to grow. Start today at brownstoneproperties.com or call 434-385-1025. Brownstone Properties, where home is at the heart of everything we do.
Head to Miller-Built Outdoor Equipment during the Toro Spring Sales event for incredible savings on select Toro zero-turn mowers. Get up to $300 off on select Time Cutter and Titan zero turns, or choose one of the amazing financing offers. When it comes to taking care of your acreage, there's nothing like the MyRide suspension that lets you float above the bumps and rough terrain. Visit Miller-Built Outdoor Equipment in Lynchburg today for the best sales, service, and expert advice around. Toro, count on it.
VTRN Sports is now heading to YouTube. Head to youtube.com/@VTRN Sports Lynchburg to watch both the morning warm-up with Trey Lyle and the Fast Lane with Ed Lane live each day. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and have notifications turned on. All the great local content you love with VTRN Sports is now on YouTube. Subscribe to the VTRN Sports YouTube channel at youtube.com/@VTRN Sports Lynchburg.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
He was there. I didn't see him because I was in the press box and he was down in the media center yesterday. But it doesn't mean we don't get to talk to him. We do right now in.
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth, a look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with NASCAR.
I'm not saying there's no skill for what Chase Elliott did. He held off Denny Hamlin. He managed to take advantage of the challenge, the crew decision to pit a little bit earlier than everybody else at about lap 260, and therefore he flipped his position from being in 9th, 10th to being in 1st. But a lot of that's a crew call. We discussed that with Michael Massey of frontstretch.com. Michael, great to be speaking with you. What percentage of Chase Elliott's win is the crew? What percentage is the driver?
Oh, hey, Ed, thanks for having me on. And I am sad to have missed you there yesterday, but yeah, I could feel your presence in Martinsville Speedway, if that makes you feel any better. But I would say that, I would chalk it up to about 75% crew, 25% driver, because it was the call. Actually, let me give you a better one. 50% crew, 25% driver, 25% luck, because the caution that came out definitely benefited them. And it was a great gutsy call by Alan Gustafson, who, despite what Chase Elliott fans say, is a great crew chief. And then Chase, he did a good job at the end. getting through lap traffic and, driving at a quick enough pace to hold off Denny Hamlin. So, yeah, that's kind of the percentages I go with.
So Chase Elliott mentioned afterwards in his post-race remarks that he's been trying to tell people, probably speaking to his fans, for a while about the value of Alan Gustafson. But fans obviously are short for fanatic and they ignore that. How much of this is Chase is just saying the right thing? How much of it is he believes it? How much of it is his dad saying, don't go the NBA route where you're passive aggressive and basically hang him out to dry? How much of that is hashtag Hendrick culture here? Where do you put that as far as Elliott having had chances to maybe get the memo out there? He wasn't a fan of Gustafson. Instead, he's backed him up, never more so than yesterday.
Yeah, I think that he is a big Allen supporter. And the reason I say that is they're still working together. I feel like, we saw with Dale Earnhardt Jr., where he went through several different crew chiefs when he was at Hendrick Motorsports. And the similarity is that they're both the most popular driver of their time, where nobody's ever going to point the finger at them. It's always going to be the crew chief's fault. So I think the fact that we see year after year he's still with Allen, and, Hendrick has made crew chief changes here and there. But it's still Allen Gustafson with Chase through all this time, where, they could have parted ways. People thought they might over the time, but no, they're still together. So I really do think he likes him. And you could tell, like, listening to Jeff Gordon talk in the press conference yesterday, that he really believes in Allen too. Like, it felt more genuine than just Hendrick speak, which, maybe there were times when Chase was backing him and he was actually mad at Allen, but yesterday was not one of those moments. Of course, it's easy to back a guy when you're in victory lane together, right?
It's, winning cures a lot. Meanwhile, we are talking with Michael Massey of frontstretch.com. Michael, how much did the strategy call by Chase Elliott's team, the way he held off Denny Hamlin, how much did that salvage what I wouldn't say was a total clunker of a race, because I thought the racing was actually pretty good behind Denny Hamlin, but it's often going to get dinged if a driver dominates throughout the way that it looked like it was going to be with Denny Hamlin pretty much dominating the first 260 laps.
Yeah, it definitely made the race more interesting. It was one of those deals, like, there were several moments during yesterday's race where I'm looking around the media center and I'm kind of talking to other people in there, and we're kind of bored. it was a little bit of a snoozer at times, but the thing is, Jordan Bianchi brought this up on the teardown. Like, that's kind of Martinsville. Like, I don't. It fringes on just wreck fest, or you get just kind of long green flag runs where somebody does dominate and lead 400 laps. So, I mean, not just because of this car. I mean, that's dating back, 20, 30 years ago, you'd have situations like that. So, yeah, I agree with you. There was definitely entertaining stuff going on in the back of the pack. I mean, you had Bubba Wallace wreck himself trying to wreck Carson Hocevar. Right? That's a pretty good race right there where something like that happens. And not to mention Ryan Blaney mad at Denny Hamlin afterwards for running him into the wall. So, like, it had its moments. It had its good moments. But, yeah, that definitely made the race more interesting, putting Chase out front of Denny, having him track him down at the end.
No doubt. It makes it more interesting, much like our insight is more interesting when we get to chat with Michael Massey of frontstretch.com. Massey, great to be speaking with you, and I'm glad to hear that the media center is still standing after you and Trey were in it at the same time yesterday.
Well, yeah. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, Trey tried to get in as much trouble as he could. He almost got run over by Zane Smith at one point. I'm sure you might have probably heard about that. But it might have shoved a mic too close to Ty Gibbs' face as well. But yeah, somehow he survived all that.
Ty Gibbs would neve run over Trey, of course. So we have to defend Ty while mentioning that Trey's guy, Zane Smith, I don't even know why he's his guy. He took him out, tried to. Shows Trey's judgment needs some improvement. Meanwhile,
Yeah. My check to Zane must not cleared because he didn't finish the job.
no, there we go. The truth comes out from Michael Massey. Massey, thank you for your time in the fast lane. Always good to catch up.
Yeah, good to hear from you too, Ed. And look forward to hearing from you tomorrow, it sounds like, on our Happy Hour podcast.
Pump, 7:30 p.m. Front Stretch YouTube network. And, of course, Front Stretch, however you listen to podcasts like I generally do. Looking forward to it, Massey, or as Bart Scott, I didn't even pull the soundbite up. You did all the work, TJ. Can't wait, and I don't even have it up. That's totally on me. But that's what I mean to say. So just take my word for it.
All right, sounds good. Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on today, Ed.
Our pleasure.
Now to the Virginia Tech Hokies.
David Cunningham, the real D Cunna, on Twitter and Instagram and techsideline.com. David, always good to be speaking with you. Transfer portal nuggets that might come out. There may be surprises, but Neoclis of Dallas leaving Virginia Tech, true or false, does not count as a surprise, especially given his reduced role as the season wound down.
Yeah, Ed, great to be with you. It's been a while since we've talked. No, I'm not surprised at all by Avdalis. I think if you watch Virginia Tech play as the season went on, you're not really surprised with it either. The interesting part, Ed, is the Hokies took a risk, and it was a risk worth taking. Chris Coleman wrote about that at the beginning of the season. You know, they went all in on this guy who has a lot of talent, clearly, but despite them kind of angling their system and style of play around him and trying to set him up for success, it just didn't work. And as the season went on, after he picked up a nagging injury, he just wasn't the same guy. And he's not known as a scorer, but he wasn't really doing the facilitating, the rebounding. He wasn't as impactful. And to be honest, he's not a great defender, at least in the system Tech wants to play. So I think it said it all when Mike Young in the ACC tournament, he kept Avdalis on the bench for the final 7.5 minutes of regulation and then the entire 5 minutes of overtime. He didn't play the final 12 minutes of Tech season. That kind of tells you how the Hokies felt about him. And it wasn't the first time. Miami, I think, is another great example where he didn't play for the final 4.5 minutes until Toby Lawal fouled out with 12 seconds remaining. When you're paying a guy a lot of money and he's supposed to be your star player, regardless of how good of a scorer he actually is, he's a huge facilitator, but you have to have him on the floor. And I think it says a lot that the Hokies at critical times in their season did not want him on the floor. That, I think, is very telling. And honestly, part of the big reason why Tech season was such a disappointment.
Are you of the belief that the, fan frustration that was voiced impacted the Neoclis of Dallas decision to transfer, or was this more just a change of scenery benefits both parties?
I think the change of scenery benefits both parties because, and as we all know, the transfer portal, it's going to keep churning. And I don't think he was a good fit for what the Hokies really wanted to do. I think you saw them try to play faster to kind of incorporate his style of play more. And through that New Year's Eve game against UVA, through that Stanford game the following week, the Hokies were playing pretty fast. They were top 150 in the country in pace, and they were playing at a faster tempo than any Mike Young team ever before. But Avdalis went cold in January, and they gave the reins to Ben Hammond, and he was a rock star. And I think he's kind of the future of this program. And I think it was always kind of going to be one and done for Avdalis at Virginia Tech, whether or not that was pro or somewhere else. And I think you've kind of seen that. And Ed, to be frank, he's probably going to ask for a lot of money that Virginia Tech would rather put elsewhere, especially given how it didn't really want to play him at the end of the year. He is a good kid, and he's a good player, and I'm sure he'll go play well somewhere else, but just not really the right fit for Virginia Tech and vice versa. And I think the Hokies are probably better off moving in a different direction based on what Mike Young wants to do because it simply didn't work. And I think Abdallas had a bit of a learning curve. I think injuries also played into it, but there were critical times throughout the year where the Hokies needed Abdallas to be a little bit special. Nothing crazy, but just a little bit special. And he rarely elevated his game that made you go, wow. He had some individual plays for sure, some incredible passes, like a full court pass in transition to Amani Hansberry for a dunk. But Ed, it wasn't consistent enough. And the Hokies, if they want to do anything, they're going to have to be pretty consistent going forward.
David Cunningham, consistently good insight as the coverage is consistently great at TechSideline.com. David, Hokie baseball, Hokie softball. We'll get to the baseball side of things first. I wouldn't say they're terrible, but disappointment has got to be the feeling. They beat Duke in a series last weekend, and they drop a midweek game against East Tennessee. They had their chances both Friday and Sunday, but couldn't grab one of those to flip a series loss to a series victory against Stanford. Is disappointing the right way to crouch the last week on the diamond for the Hokies?
Yeah, I think for baseball, certainly. I think it's a little bit of a letdown, just the way they played. I don't think in a baseball season, you play so many games, Ed. You see it at the major league level, of course, all the time. It's not just one thing that factors into it. Sometimes it's the starting pitcher. Sometimes it's the bullpen. Sometimes it's no bats. Sometimes it's just situational hitting. This weekend, it was kind of a combination of everything and the ETSU game. And when you are 1-3 in your last 4 games, that kind of stings, especially considering they just escaped Duke last Sunday for that series win. The ETSU game was not pretty at all. And ETSU is good, don't get me wrong, but this weekend against Stanford, the Hokies had it, and they kind of let it slip through their fingers a little bit. Their situational hitting yesterday, Ed, was just really, really poor. Left 17 runners on base, and they were 0 for 10 with 2 outs. And you can go through the numbers, 3 for 22 with runners on. I mean, you just have to be better than that if you want to win series. And the arms, I think, have actually kind of turned around. The arms have been a little bit better. But if your hitting is not there backing it up, it makes it a little bit difficult.
Meanwhile, the positive from the Diamond, Hokie softball. That was a good professional series. They run-ruled Boston College. They never let it get in doubt in any of those games in the sweep, and they showed they were not looking ahead to the big series coming up against Clemson. And I don't mean this in a pay-for-play sense. Is professional in the sense of taking care of business the right way to describe how the Hokies went up to Boston College and combined 42-7 over the Eagles in those 3 games?
That's a football score there, Ed. Yeah, I think that's the right approach, given that the last couple of years, in sports, those underdog teams that are kind of playing with their backs against the wall, that are understanding that they can kind of steal one here and there, those teams can be a little tricky. Hokies went up to Pittsburgh a year or 2 ago and lost a series to a bad Pitt team. They have tripped up here and there against the likes of Pitt, Syracuse, Boston College. Not necessarily the Eagles in softball, because they are undefeated against them under Pete DeMoore. But those games in sports are always tricky. And I think it says a lot, the professionalism, like you said, that the Hokies were able to kind of casually go up there and handle business and look like a football score. And they're rolling right now, and they get an interesting series at home, Ed, against Clemson. I think this is one that, if you want to be in the consideration to host an NCAA regional potentially, this is kind of one of these big series where Clemson is teetering on the top 25, I think, and if you can steal one or steal a series against a really good opponent, I think it would go a long way. So, yeah, I mean, I've continued to be impressed with kind of how they've just kind of handled business on a game in, game out, day in, day out kind of thing. It's not easy, Ed, especially when you're relying on a bunch of different pitchers, a different pitcher each day. You have to have some consistency from the bats, but also the bullpen, and a lot goes into it. And I think it says a lot that the Hokies are continuing to roll in softball. And credit to Pete DeMoore, who picked up obviously a milestone win last weekend against NC State.
Yes, he did. Virginia Tech baseball, they have looked, Virginia Tech softball, excuse me. They have looked fantastic. Fantastic insight. David Cunningham, TextSideline.com. David, great to be chatting with you today. Grateful for the time as always and look forward to it.
Much appreciated. Talk to you soon.
And last but not least, or maybe least, just for you haters, left hand up the Commanders.
Madam President, Bowie TV Sports. I corrected myself before having to drop one in the virtual swear jar. Candy Waller with us here in the Fast Lane on W227 BG Timberlake, WVGM AM Lynchburg, WMNA, Gretna, Danville, Southside, Seawall. Great to be speaking with you. Commanders, first of all, you were at the Ohio State Pro Day last week. Are you more convinced that they may not definitively take a Buckeye, but you would say there's probably a 50% chance, given the volume of prospects, that will be available at number 7?
There could be a strong chance. I mean, this is a very strong draft class overall, specifically from Ohio State. They just have a lot of great talented players, many of which could absolutely be there at pick number 7. It could go in the top 10 overall.
So you referenced that. Top 10 overall, the Washington Commanders have a number 1 wide receiver in Terry McLaurin from the aforementioned Ohio State. Dan Quinn spoke with the media earlier today. You've got it up at Seawall SC. Coverage is at Bowie TV Sports as well on the socials. But what the Commanders are looking for in a wide receiver, does that lead you to believe they would spend the 7th pick on Carnell Tate? Is it out of the question? Is it not likely? Is it highly likely? What is your takeaway after having had a chance to hear Dan Quinn speak?
After having had a chance to hear Dan Quinn speak, as well as Adam Peters, we just got out of a media scrum with Adam Peters. I'm going to say they don't know. Not today. Like he said, like Adam Peters said to us this afternoon, March 30th, we don't know. Like he doesn't know, right? And even if he did, he probably wouldn't tell us. But at the same token, I do know that there's strong desire to draft Carnell Tate by the New Orleans Saints that pick number 8. So let's see. There's a lot to like about Carnell Tate. I absolutely, after seeing him at Ohio State Pro Day, I absolutely understand why he's been mocked to the Commanders at pick 7. But I definitely think still it's a lot to do with who's the best player available on the board, but really on their board. So who is the best player available? And they're really still at a great spot to see who. I don't even think it's about anyone falling to them. I think it's just a talented group, and somebody great will be there at 7.
So you like where the Commanders are at number 7. Best player available versus best player available on the team's board. That's one of the topics that you covered at Seawall SC. What is your takeaway on how the Commanders approach that, and if it meshes with what they will be doing at pick 7?
I mean, I think it kind of goes along with what we've seen them do the last 2 years. I mean, the first year, of course, they needed a quarterback. They got that. I think it was probably debatable, right, if they needed a right tackle, because I think some of us were thinking, okay, well, maybe Brandon Coleman goes to right tackle. You were thinking maybe there were some other people that could fill that role, but it was okay. Genuinely, there's not a right tackle other than Andrew Wiley. There's somebody who needed to come in and compete. Okay, so now I'm starting to think through, all right, best player available at a position of need. So I think that's kind of where we all start. Where do they absolutely not have someone? And this even goes back to quarterback, right? Remember when they first started free agency, they brought in Marcus Mariota, right? But we all knew in the back of our minds, Marcus Mariota is not going to be their starting quarterback. So I think that's the same way to think about these things. Maybe it's not Carnell Tate, but who is there a conversation around? It could be if, then, if this, then that. It's kind of one of those conversations. And I'm also, like I mentioned with the New Orleans Saints, I'm trying to learn a little bit more about who likes who and what folks are thinking here. I could share with you all the Titans. Sounds like they're thinking running back or best available edge rusher. So that's pick 4. So we'll just have to continue to see and connect the dots with the teams that pick before the Washington Commanders.
Yes, indeed. That is where the Commanders are. There's a lot of connecting the dots. Seawall, we will be looking out for your coverage at Bowie TV Sports on Twitter and Instagram, and certainly looking ahead toward the draft as it is getting closer and closer. 3 weeks and change out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I'll be talking to you guys again soon.
Our boots on the ground at the NFL owners meetings out in California. Candy Waller with us here in the Fast Lane. That does it for us today. Quick, Freddie and Harry for ESPN Radio, and then March Madness, Women's Elite Eight action here on the VTRN Sports app. And ask that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
Really both Arizona, Michigan, even UConn. Tyrus Reed Jr.